God rewards those who earnestly seek him, not shying away from the fact that, man, there's reward for worshiping God, for placing our affections in him. There's an interesting passage in there. It says that none of them received what was promised to them in this life. But man, again, they were looking to a city that was to come. And ultimately, again, we know that city is really the new heavens, new earth, right? They were looking heavenward.
We're not trying to sugarcoat what the life of committed worship and faith and trusting what God says is always going to be easy, but there is joy. And I think about Paul in his letters. He's writing and encouraging churches while he's in prison. I think about Jesus, and we find out that it's the joy set before him that he endures the cross, scorning its shame. It's not out of obligation. It's you and me and the joy of being reunited to his creation that drives him. It's that benefit, and that's what we get to experience when we follow him. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to give strong support to those whose heart is blameless toward him. And I think about that like with my kids. I want to catch my kids in obedience. When they do the things that I ask them to do, it's fun to reward them. I want that habit, I want that behavior to be repeated. You know, it's a difficulty. I tell my kids all the time, I don't want to discipline you, but I have to. And so in the same way that I have to give discipline when my kids are disobedient because I want to stop that behavior and tell them that's not the path of life, I also want to reward them when I see them doing the things that I've told them to do. And there's just a joy as a father, I think in the same way that God sees when we obey him and we do things the way that he says to do things, we actually get to experience joy and goodness in this life and in eternity as well. To think future-oriented, to be an investor, and to think about your retirement. And everyone would say, well, there's wisdom in that. We want to invest far beyond this portion of our existence on this planet. We want to think about eternity, what's going to look like to be with the Lord, and what that experience is going to be like for us and those that we love.
We're living for really eternity, and that could sound super cliche, and even coming out of my mouth, like I'm like, oh man, is that just a cliche, or is that something I actually believe and like we actually set our hope on and our sight on as believers? And I think it's in 1 Peter, it talks about our inheritance is one that's not fading, it's not going to fail, it's not going to rust, or it's not going to have these diminishing returns. Like we were talking about investing, like we're investing towards heaven, man. We have a kingdom destination, a heavenly destination that's ultimately our ultimate end.
As we invest in eternity, we actually get to reap the blessings now as well. We get the joy and the goodness that comes from obeying God now and later. When I was struggling, having that crisis of belief in my early 20s, I would say that a strong majority of my life was about me, if not all of it. I was a very selfish person, and yet I was very joyless. And I think about my life now, the amount of joy that I have, and yet I tend to focus a whole lot less on myself than I ever did when I was young and single, and my life was all about me. And yet the blessings are exactly as God has always said, that as we lay our life down, as we seek to bless his name and bless others, we actually receive a blessing.
They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. We're storing up treasures for heaven, but then sometimes we're enjoying that which is truly life now, right? When we set our affection, our hope on worshiping God and placing him first. Do I understand that like placing God first in my life is truly life? Like that's experiencing life to the fullest.
I am the vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit, for apart from me, you can do nothing. There's a benefit and a blessing in fruit. I mean, there's fruit in our lives. And I think about, every fall, we take our kids, we go as a family to one of these harvest farms, and we spend a ridiculous amount of money to go drink some apple cider and do a corn maze and pick a pumpkin. And we're not the only ones, you know, there's thousands of people that are coming through, spending all kinds of money to do this. And yet we don't see people go spend their money or their time to go to an open field with rocks and nothing growing in it but weeds. So fruit is not only the evidence of life in our lives, but it also attracts life. And so as we have fruit in our life, I think that becomes such a dynamic part of who we are. The people, they're interested. What is it? How can I have that in my life?